Hello guys and welcome back. In this video we are going to talk about configure internal and external services for account administration. In short, we are going to discuss the types of roles available we can configure in Palo Alto Firewall. Administrator accounts control access to firewalls, as we know. By default, Palo Alto networks firewall have a predefined default local admin account that has full access. Admin account can be either local or non-local, which we call external. Additionally, local or external admin account can be created with customized administrative privilege by assigning them to admin role profiles, or you can assign admin account to built-in account type using dynamic roles. Administrative role types. A role defines the type of access that an administrator has to the firewall. The two role types are admin role profile role and dynamic roles. So number one, we're going to talk about admin role profile role. These are the custom roles you can configure for more granular access control over the functional area of the web interface, CLI and XML API. For example, you can create an admin role profile role for your operation staff that provide access to the firewall and network configuration area of the web interface, and a separate profile for your security administrator that provide access to security policy definitions, logs, and reports. On firewall with multiple virtual systems, you can select whether the role defines access for all virtual systems or specific virtual systems. After a new feature are added to the product, you must update the role with corresponding access privilege. The firewall does not automatically add new features to custom definitions. We're going to see where we can have this role practically now. So let me log in to the firewall. HTTPS 192.168.25, username and password. So once you log in, if you go to the device, you have to come to the administrator, and as you can see only one administrator here. If I click to that, it just give you default things what already configured, but you can add this from here, and here you can specify the name of the admin, the authentication profile. If you want to create some authentication profile, we will discuss that later on. You can add that. Then use only client certificate authentication web. This is a different story, we'll talk on that. Use the username is given, then password you have to give and confirm that. Then again use public key authentication, SSH. If you want, you can do that. Then there is a type like administrator types, dynamic. In dynamic you can see a super user read only, device administrator read only. This is defined by default, and you have to define the password profile, the one which we generally recommended that the password should be look like this. These are the number of things you need to follow for the password. And then role base. So here you can define the admin role, you can create the role, and accordingly you can deliver this account. So whenever you select the admin role based profile, you have to specify what need to be accessed and where you need to be accessed. All right, now let's talk about the profile. So if you see, there is after the admin roles, if you see, there is admin authentication profiles. So if I say add authentication profiles, you will see how the authentication need to be happen, like whether it's a locally happen with the database or with the different options like Radius server, LDAP, TACAC plus or Kerberos kind of thing. And rest of the details you need to give as per the requirement, what profile you are configuring, right? So here is the profile setting. Now let's come back to the admin roles. So here if you say add, you will see the role things. This is the list, is just one of the 15 pages what we have for the roles of configuration web interface options. For example, this guy. So if you create a role, say test, just I give the name, what things you want here, so he can see the stuff like that. If you want to see, if you want admin to be see the logs, not logs, you have to just select like this. I mean, for example, if admin want to have access of a dashboard, this need to be marked green, otherwise it's like this cross mark. Likewise, you have a XML API. If the admin login to the XML API, what he should be see there. So only if you allow him to do the commit, you can do this. Likewise, and similarly with the command line, if you give what level access you need to have, super user, reader, device admin, device reader. We will discuss these different roles, what they have the capability later on. But this is how you can do this. Now let's talk about the dynamic roles. As I told you here, when you create an admin, we have a choice, the administrator type, dynamic or role based. So let's talk about the dynamic. So dynamic, these are the built-in or predefined roles that provide access to the firewall. When new features are added, the firewall automatically update the database. So these are the built-in or predefined roles that provide access to the firewall. When new features are added, the firewall automatically update the definition of dynamic roles. You never need to manually update them. As we can see here, there is a multiple roles available in dynamic roles. So number one, let's talk about the super user. Super user having the full access to the firewall, including defining new administrator, account and virtual systems. You must have super user privilege to create an administrator or an administrative user with super user privilege. Then there is super user read only. So super user read only is, as name indicate, it have read only access to the firewall. Then there is device administrator, this one. Device administrator have the full access to the all firewall setting except for the defining new account or virtual systems, right? And device admin read only, the next one. Access to all firewall setting except password profile, no access, and administrator account. Only the login account is visible when you create device administrator read only. So virtual system administrator, they call it virtual system administrator role. and here we have two, one this one, and virtual system admin read read only role. So virtual system administrator, it having full access to selected virtual system, we call it VSys on the firewall. And virtual system administrator who having read-only access, it has only read-only access to the selected VSys on the firewall. Right now, it is important to have the understanding on the administrative profiles as well. So as we can see, you can apply to administrative accounts, SSL VPN access, and captive portal. Authentication profile configuration is very simple. As you can see, whichever authentication profile you need to select, the configuration for that is occur, and you have to just specify these details. Authentication profiles, or authentication profile reference a server profile. So let's talk on that. Server profile. Server profile include the server name, its IP address, service port that is listening to, and other values. For example, you can follow the radius server profiles, and where you can define different values, right? Share secret, ports, and everything. If I come here, so you can create a new server profile here. For example, radius server profile. Here you can give the profile name, the details on servers like name, radius server, share secret, the port, what it works, and accordingly it works. Like if we do the authentication using the servers, radius servers. Now talk about the authentication sequence. As you can see here, if you say add, you will see what authentication sequence you want to have. If you create your authentication profile, which profile should come first, which last, you can add here, and this sequence will be follow. So basically, the admin roles for external admin account can be assigned to an authentication sequence. Which include a sequence of one or more authentication profile that are processed in a specific order. The firewall checks against each authentication profile within the authentication sequence until one authentication profile successfully authenticated the user. If an external admin account does not reference an authentication sequence, it directly references an authentication profile instead. A user is denied access only if authentication fails for all profiles in the authentication sequence. Definition of an authentication sequence you can add here. It's as per that the sequence will follow one after another. If you go back here to the setup, and if you click to management, and here if you see, there is something called authentication setting. So here you can define, to ensure tighten security, you should enable minimum password complexity requirements. This settings, as you can see on the screen, apply to all admin account and help protect the firewall against the unauthorized access for administrator account that requires trigger complexity and aging requirement that do account for standard administration. So whatever the profile you have configured, you can give the authentication profile here, and from then the certificate profile if you have any, then idle timeout, failed attempt, lockout time screen. You can define or impose this policy on them. And finally you can see here there's something called config audit uh, or config logs, generally what we get. So the config audit basically compares the configuration changes and everything what we have. Guys, I hope this video you found informative, and thanks for watching this video.